The absent author, okay? So we are on chapter 5. So just listen, follow along, okay? So the last part of what happened was that they went to talk to the taxi driver, Maureen, and she didn't have Wallace Wallace. So then Dink was like, okay, he's not at the airport. He is not with Maureen. So the last place on his list, one of the last places was hotel. So now we think that he might be going to the hotel. So let's keep reading. Back on Main Street, Dink adjusted his backpack and led the way to the Shangri-La Hotel. Maureen Higgins says she dropped him off at the hotel last night, he told the others. So that's our next stop. What if she didn't? Josh said, catching up to Dink. What do you mean? I mean, maybe Maureen Higgins wasn't telling the truth. Maybe she did kidnap him, and she's hiding him in her lunchbox, Ruth Rose said. Very funny, Josh said. Maureen Higgins said she drove Wallace Wallace to the hotel, but what if she drove him somewhere else? You could be right, Dink said. That's why we're going to the hotel. With Dink and Lean, the four approached the check-in counter at the hotel lobby. Excuse me, Dink said to the man behind the counter. May we help you? He said, the saddest looking man Dink had ever seen. He had thin black hair and droopy eyebrows. His skinny mustache looked like a sleeping centipede. A name tag on his suit coat said Mr. Linkletter. We're looking for someone. Mr. Linkletter stared at Dink. He's supposed to be staying at this hotel. The man twitched his mustache at Josh. His name is Wallace Wallace, Dink explained. Can you tell us if he checked in last night? Mr. Linkletter patted his mustache. Young sir, if we had such a guest, we wouldn't give out any information. We have rules at the Shangri-La, he said in a deep, sad voice. But he's missing, Ruth Rose said. He was supposed to be at a book nook this morning, and he never showed up. Dink pulled out the itinerary. See, he was coming here from the airport. The taxi driver said she saw him walk into this lobby. And he's famous, Ruth Rose said. She placed her book on the counter in front of Mr. Linkletter. He wrote this. Sighing, Mr. Linkletter looked down at Ruth Rose. We are quite aware of who Mr. Wallace is, young miss. Mr. Linkletter turned his sad eyes back on Dink. He flipped through the hotel register, glanced at it, then quickly shut the book. Yes, Mr. Wallace checked in, he said. He arrived at 8:05. He did? What happened after that? Mr. Linkletter pointed towards a bank of elevators. He went to his room. We offered to have his suitcase carried, but he preferred to do it himself. Have you seen Mr. Wallace yet today? No, madame, I have not. Mr. Wallace is still in his room. Still in his room? Suddenly, Dink felt relieved. He felt a little foolish, too. Wallace hadn't been kidnapped after all. He was probably in his room right now. Can you call him? Dink asked. Mr. Linkletter tapped his fingers on the closed hotel register. He patted his mustache and squinted his eyes at Dink. Please, Dink, we just want to make sure he's okay. Finally, Mr. Linkletter turned around. He stepped a few feet away and picked up the red telephone. As soon as his back was turned, Josh grabbed the hotel register. He quickly found yesterday's page. Dink and the others crowded around Josh for a peek. Dink immediately recognized Wallace Wallace's signature scrawled in the big loopy letters. He had checked into room 303 at 8:05 last night. Dink pulled out his letter from Wallace Wallace and compared the two signatures. They were exactly the same. Josh dug his elbow into Dink's sides. Look, he whispered. Josh pointed to the next line in the register. Room 302 had been printed there. Check-in time was 8:15. Someone else checked in right after Wallace Wallace, Ruth Rose whispered. But the signature is smudged, Dink said. I can't read the name. Then when Mr. Linkletter hung up the phone, Josh shoved the register away. As Mr. Linkletter turned back around, Dink shut the register. He looked up innocently. Is he in his room? Dink asked. I don't know. Mr. Linkletter tapped his finger on his register. There was no answer. Dink's stomach dropped. If Wallace Wallace had checked into his room last night, why hadn't he showed up to the book nook today? And why wasn't he answering his phone? Maybe Wallace Wallace had been kidnapped after all. Dink stared at Mr. Linkletter. No answer. Are you sure? Mr. Linkletter nodded. He looked puzzled. Perhaps he's resting and doesn't want to be disturbed. Can we go up and see? Ruth Rose said. Smiled sweetly at Mr. Linkletter. Then we know for sure. Mr. Linkletter shook his head. We cannot disturb our guests, young lady. We have rules at the Shangri-La. Now, good day, and thank you. Ruth Rose opened her mouth. Good day, Mr. Linkletter said firmly again. Dink and the others walked toward the door. Something smells fishy, Dink said. Yeah, Josh said, and I think it's that Linkletter guy. See how he tried to hide the register? He turned his back. Maybe he didn't even call room 303. Maybe he was just warning his partner in crime. What are you suggesting, Josh? Mavis asked. Maybe Mr. Linkletter is the kidnapper, Josh said. He was the last one to see Wallace Wallace. A man wearing a red cap tapped Dink on the shoulder. Excuse me, but I overheard you talking to my boss, Mr. Linkletter. Maybe I can help you find Wallace Wallace. My kids love his books. Great, Dink said. Can you get us into his room? The man shook his head. No, but I know the maid who cleaned the third floor of the rooms this morning. Maybe she noticed something. With his back to Mr. Linkletter, the man scribbled a few words on a pad and handed him the page to Dink. Good luck, the man whispered and hurried away. What'd he write? Josh asked. Outside, Dink said. They all shoved through the revolving door. In front of the hotel, Dink looked at the piece of paper. The maid's name is Olivia Nugent. She lives at the Acorn Apartments, number 4. Lively Nugent. I know her, Ruth Rose said. She used to be my babysitter. The Acorn is right around the corner on Oak Street, Dink said. Let's go. Soon all 4 were standing in front of the Livy Nugget's door. She answered it with the baby in her arms. Another little kid held to her leg and stared at Dink and the others. He had peanut butter all over his face and in his hair. Hi, the boy's mother said. I'm not buying any cookies, and I already get the Green Lawn Gazette. She was wearing a man's blue shirt and jeans. Her brown hair stuck out from under a Yankees baseball cap. Livy, it's me, Ruth Rose said. Olivia stared at Ruth Rose and broke into a grin. Ruth Rose, you're so big. What are you up to these days? A man at the hotel gave us your name. What man? He was sort of old, wearing a red cap, Dink said. Livy chuckled. Freddie old? He's only 30. So why'd he send you to me? He told us you cleaned the rooms this morning, Dink said. Did you clean room 303? Livy Nugget substituted her baby to the other arm. Randy, please stop pulling on Mommy's legs. Why don't you go find us your lunch? Randy ran back into the apartment. No, Livy told Dink. Nobody slept in that room. The bed was still made this morning, and the towels were still clean and dry. I remember because there were 2 rooms in a row that I didn't have to clean, 302 and 303. And room 302 had a do not disturb sign hanging on the door. So I came home early, paid off the babysitter, and made our lunches. But Mr. Linkletter told us Wallace Wallace checked into room 03 last night, Ruth Rose said. Not the Wallace Wallace, the mystery writer? My kid's sister devours his books. Dink nodded. He was supposed to sign books at the book nook this morning, but he never showed up. We even saw a signature on the hotel register, Ruth Rose said. Well, Wallace Wallace might have signed in, but he never slept in that room, Livy grinned, unless he's a ghost. I wonder if Mr. Linkletter could have made a mistake about the room number, Mavis suggested quietly. Livy smiled at Mavis. You must not be from around here, Mr. Linkletter. Never makes mistakes. So Wallace Wallace signed in, but he didn't sleep in his room, said Dink. That means someone must have kidnapped him before he went to bed, Josh said. Livy's eyes bugged. Kidnapped? Geez, Mr. Linkletter will have a fit, she imitated his voice. We have rules about kidnappings at the Shangri-La. Everyone except Dink laughed. All he could think about was Wallace Wallace, his favorite author, kidnapped. Suddenly, a crash came from inside Livy's apartment. Oops, gotta run, Livy said. Randy is playing bulldozer with his baby sister's strollers again. I hope you find Wallace Wallace. My kid sister will die if he doesn't write another book. They slowly walked back to Main Street. Dink felt as if his brain was spinning around in his head. Now he felt certain that Wallace Wallace had been kidnapped. But who did it? And when? And where was Wallace Wallace being held? Guys, I'm feeling confused, he said. Can we just sit somewhere and go over the facts again? Good idea, Josh said. I always think better when I'm eating. I'm feeling a bit peckish too, Mavis said. I need a quiet cup of tea and a sandwich. Should we meet again after lunch? Ruth Rose looked at her clock. Let's meet here at 2 o'clock. Where? Josh said. Back at the hotel. Dink peered through the glass at Mr. Linkletter. Unless Maureen Higgins and Mr. Linkletter are both lying, he said, Wallace Wallace walked into the Shangri-La last night and never came out. All right, so think about what we just read, okay? Think about what we just read. All right, so today for our little mini